Today I'm talking about a brand new character from my character request series for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. We're going to be talking about someone who is known for never finishing anything from the Jimmy Neutron series, new Jimmy Neutron DLC. I think he could be one of the best and one of the funniest villains to ever make it into the roster. I haven't seen anyone talk about him and even list him as part of their characters that they want to see in a game, or maybe potential villains. And I think Calamitous is just one of those different characters that can really be able to make this roster even more unique than what it is. We already got a Jimmy Neutron DLC with Hugh Neutron.
Select your fighter.
We're going to get into it and start talking about it. We have Hugh Neutron as the first ever rep of Jimmy Neutron to get into the game. I think Calamitous can join the likes of Shredder and to be able to stack up the villains for what he is. And I don't see many, I don't see many people just talk about him and mention him. I'm gonna just keep it on Hugh Neutron because we're just talking about a Jimmy Neutron rep, and then maybe I'll make some references if I decide to highlight different characters throughout the video for today, for this weekend. Professor Calamitous is such a good character. He doesn't even really get much appearances in the show, but why not have him get a little bit of an extra spark by putting him into Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl to join this roster? And I think he'll be a really great fighter. I can't wait to share the ideas that I came up with him throughout this video, but we're going to just start talking about his backstory. And if you have seen Jimmy Neutron before and you know about him, you probably wouldn't, none of this would be able to be necessarily new information to share to get to know this character. Professor Calamitous is also a former student of Mrs. Fowl, and I'm going to talk about more. He's a brilliant evil scientist and Jimmy Neutron's second arch nemesis. And just like I finished saying, he's also just a former student of Mrs. Fowl. I forgot that he was also a former student that attended her class, and she began to know him as someone who can never finish anything. And he didn't even, if you can believe this, as old as he is, he never even finished Mrs. Fowl's class. And she even talked about him in a particular episode when he first gets introduced to the series. In this particular episode of Jimmy Neutron, Professor Calamitous, I presume that's the name of the episode. This episode was such a special reference that I end up watching multiple times and just rewinding, and I got to watch this on Paramount. You can watch this episode on Paramount Plus with all these memorable Nickelodeon shows, and I wanted to just do some research to find out more about him. And it just completely slipped my mind that Professor Calamitous was also a student of Mrs. Fowl in a long time ago, way before all these characters came to existence. And she got to talk about him in front of the class, and because Jimmy Neutron was so curious about him, what's so special about Professor Calamitous, and what do we know about him, and what does she know about him? So that's why she ended up talking about him, and he just disappeared. He disappeared and he never showed up, and he just basically, I'm just gonna say it, he basically went ghost, and he never was seen again. And even Mrs. Fowl hasn't even seen him. So he just went missing. He just never finished the class. He just disappeared. So that's what I ended up finding out. And if you watch this particular episode, you'll be able to find this out as well. And just a little bit more of his backstory. Calamitous also has a robot bodyguard in a disguise called the Calamibot, which that I implemented for his moveset and how I think he can play. But I'm gonna get into that when I get to his moveset, and I'm gonna get ready to talk about his alternate costumes and more. But just as I finished saying, he just doesn't appear much in the series. And then I think outside of Jimmy Neutron, with the collaboration or the crossover, if you want to say it like that, he appeared in a crossover with the legendary Timmy Power Hour. When Jimmy's World and Jimmy's World of Characters cross over and connect and cross paths with the world of characters with Fairly Odd Parents, Timmy Turner and company. And he even had a run-in with Jordan Von Strangle and had an alliance with him, which is even crazy. So it's just things like that. See what I'm talking about? There's so many things that they can do with this series and with this game with Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. But that's his story. a brilliant scientist. He's brilliant. He has so much capability and skill, and I think he can really be able to be one of the most dangerous characters in the game, and also an iconic villain that's funny to play as. And I can't wait to share with you guys some kind of special feature that I wanted to be able to bring to the table for his moveset. And not only could he not finish inventions in that class for Mrs. Fowl, this guy couldn't even finish a sentence. And it's funny just talking about it. So I'm gonna be I use that also, just the way he talks and could struggle. He couldn't finish a sentence and he didn't know what he was trying to say. He would get stumped trying to figure out the next word that he's trying to think of to finish his sentence or to finish a voice line. It's just really funny. So I think he can be really a good pick to add on to the world of Jimmy Neutron reps for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. But now we're going to just start talking about the stages. We finished talking about his backstory just for you guys to get to know him. And I definitely recommend watching Jimmy Neutron if you haven't seen it, or this particular episode is right on Paramount. You can watch it, and then there's other episodes that he ends up making an appearance in too. But the stages, just like I did with my old Hugh Neutron video idea for character movesets, for him, I did the same thing, well, outside of the Taco Shack that I put with Hugh Neutron. I put these basically the same stages that I put for Jimmy Neutron's DLC when I made a character idea for Jimmy Neutron, how he can get in. These stages are going to be similar, and I'll have those shared going towards the video, the end of the video. Retroville, the Candy Bar, and Retroland, because his goal was to try to take over Retroland to get his revenge, because people would just talk about him and make fun of him. Oh, he can never finish anything, and he didn't really like that. So that made him so angry and things like that, and his whole purpose was to try to just get Jimmy Neutron to help him finish his inventions, to get him to join his force, to join his cause, and help him finish these inventions so he can take over Retroville. So those are just like the three stages that I ended up putting. Retroville, the Candy Bar, because he ends up making an appearance and crashing right into the Candy Bar. And then Retroland, that can also be another iconic stage that's also made an appearance in a different game. For Kart Racers 3, why not put it in this game? So some alternate costumes, this is something that I really had the most trouble with, because Professor Calamitous, he doesn't really wear anything different, and I didn't really see him look any different. And then I used the character model from his appearance from Jimmy Timmy Power Arc, because he had that sort of Fairly Odd Parents sort of design to him. So that could be something that they could probably do for an additional look. So I just put Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 2, the sequel, so they can give him that kind of look with his animations when you hit the R1 button. I think that'd be one of the coolest looking skins in the alternate costumes, if you want to just say it like that. And just what I usually do, color variations of his lab coat, his gloves, and then since I put Professor Calamitous in his robot suit, his robot battle suit, Calamibot, you can change the color of Calamibot, and then on top of that, or maybe in the same window for the picture, they can have him in the slot for the character slot. They can have Professor Calamitous on the left side, and maybe in the background behind them, they can have Calamibot behind on the right side. And as you hit the R1 button or whatever you play this game on your particular platform that you prefer, you could change the color, and you're going to be changing the color of Professor Calamitous' lab coat and his goggles, his gloves, and his Calamibot. So I thought that'll be something unique that they can do to make it a little bit different. Color customizations is just, I like to say, color variations, so you can be able to select from a little bit of a color wheel to be able to change his look. So that way he doesn't look the same. You have a different color, and he has something that he can look a little bit differently if they just want to get an alternate costume going for this character. So you're just not only changing the look of Calamitous, you're changing his robot battle suit at this all into one, to be able to pick the colors that you want to pick to change the looks. But those are the only two alternate costumes ideas that I can find out and figure out and come up with, just for some ideas. But other than that, there's nothing else that I have seen him appear in with different attire. because he just didn't appear that much in the show. So I think those would just be unique references. But that Jimmy Timmy Power R2 version look for him, I don't know if that's going to be a little bit tougher to get, because that's part of the Fairly Odd Parents license. So it's just some kind of ideas. Even with that, even if that comes to a halt, still can change the colors of his suit, his battle suit, and more. But now it's time for the animations and taunts. And just for a little bit of a taunt as an idea, just from the show that he does, when Jimmy Neutron messes his name up, or the scientist that never could finish anything. He could do this evil grin with his goggles off from the show to take them off. It's Professor Calamitous to you. See what I'm saying? So that'll be something that, like a quick little taunt, and just it goes with a voice line at that. And if he doesn't have a voice line for that particular taunt, he can just do that, have his goggles off, and then take them off, put them back on. It's like that's just that evil grin that he does from the show. And he does it in this actual episode with Professor Calamitous, I presume, his debut episode. So you don't really have to really look at any other episodes. He does everything that I'm mentioning in this particular episode and more. And just when he introduces himself, just how he couldn't finish anything, please allow me to introduce myself. When he was introducing himself to Jimmy Neutron and Goddard, he said, I'm he's trying to figure out, he can't even figure out his own name and finish his introduction. It's just so funny to watch. And see, he's such a great character too. I think he's a really underrated villain in the Nicktoons series, in the NCU, in my honest opinion. And then some other ones I wanted to share. I've come to just forget it. And then some other ones where he just can't finish. He can't finish any of his voice lines. Prepare to meet your whatever. And then some other additional voice lines. I'll get you, Jimmy Neutron. And then something that can be also iconic for a voice line that he says in the show, oh poo. Because that's when Jimmy Neutron ended up outsmarting him and escaping, because he had captured Goddard in the episode. Oh poo. And he blasts through. He used his own invention to blast right through his wall, or his steel wall, that he couldn't escape. So those are just some cool little voice lines. And then a winning animation I came up with that he does, just watching him in the episode. Calamitous could, when he wins, Calamitous could exit the Calamibot and quickly run off the screen to go to the bathroom as a funny reference, because he always had to go to the bathroom. And in his Calamibot, he didn't have a way to go to the bathroom just from the show. It's such a funny reference that these devs can really do to make it really funny. And his purchase, his exclusive DLC, paid DLC purchase, unique as a funny character, struggling to finish sentences and things like that. And I'm gonna say more that I found out. Just something to add on to another potential winning animation. Calamitous can laugh, and then he can try to say like a sentence but doesn't finish, and then saying never mind and just flying off with Calamibot, because Calamibot can fly. And I also put that in that moveset, so I'm about to get ready to get into that soon. So just this episode in particular was more than enough. And just watching the show and doing some more research about this character, just watching this episode of Professor Calamitous, I presume, it just gave me all that I need for more potential ideas where you can see what he can do and just find out about him as a character and more, and from his inventions, his story, and just his goals of what he's really trying to do. But now my favorite part, the moveset, and just like I mentioned, Calamibot is going to be the mech or the battle suit that he's going to be controlling on the field. And I thought the player is going to be controlling them. And look, they don't have none of these characters that's controlling a mech. There's no one in this game that's controlling a robot or some kind of machine. He could be the first of many, the first of maybe one other particular character that I can bring out and reference Plankton, because he could be playing as Karen and playing with Karen. in some kind of little bit of a mech, a robot mech. But Calamitous, he's gonna be in his robot battle suit, Calamibot, and it's a perfect way I can see him just being a playable character, and just getting into it. It's a potential play style for hands-on experience. You play as Calamibot as Professor Calamitous inside a Calamibot, his battle suit. It's a perfect fit in my opinion, and you can really see what he can do in the same episode I was just talking about, with some of these moments and these voice lines and more that can fit him. And something else before I get into the moveset that I want to share with you guys. I thought of something unique, a forgetful special feature where Calamitous can forget his own moves. See how he can never finish anything, and he can't finish a sentence, and he had some trouble trying to get his words out and trying to figure out what he wants to say. The developers can make him forget certain moves. And just to share more, as the battle goes on, when you play as him, you're taking a risk. You're going to be taking a risk when you play as Professor Calamitous, because with this forgetful special feature the devs can implement, as the battle goes on over time, Professor Calamitous is going to sometimes forget some of his moves and can be vulnerable for attacks while trying to remember how to do those moves. Because see how he's going to be controlling Calamibot, that mech. He's going to forget what to press. He's going to forget the operations and his own controls. And it also pays tribute to the show, because he was so close to finishing his disintegration ray. His disintegration ray, Jimmy Neutron finished just the slightest in a matter of seconds. He finished what he forgot to add in his disintegration ray invention. And it just shows that the devs can probably implement that special feature because something is unfinished, or maybe he forgot something in particular to really be able to activate his inventions to be able to fight. So it'll be something that I think could really be something cool. So a forgetful sort of special feature, so each time he forgets, you're gonna have to try to use a different move. So just like this one, for example, his flamethrower that he utilizes in the show, Calamitous can use his flamethrower to reach enemies at a distance across the battlefield. And with this as a little bit of a bonus, he can also be able to move while holding the button down. So as you play as him, the player he or she can hold the button down and be able to move across the field with the flamethrower activated. And just a little bit of a Bowser reference from Super Smash Bros. The longer the button is held, the smaller the flame is gonna get. Cause just see how you can hold the button down when Bowser in Super Smash Bros. With his flame breath, or the fire coming out of his mouth for Super Smash Bros. It gets smaller. It's not going to stay the same size. It's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. They can utilize that for his flamethrower as a nice little reference. And just to make it a little bit more unique, you can be able to move around with it. And then you can take chip damage because your character is going to be on fire. Or just be ignited. See what I'm saying? So that could be something that could be implemented just to start. Sleeping gas. I put sleeping gas that he utilizes in the show. And he used this on Hugh Neutron to put him to sleep when he raided Jimmy Neutron's house. Calamitous can spray green gas from his hand to temporarily put the enemy to sleep. And they can do it differently. It doesn't have to put them to sleep. It can stun them. Make them immobilized or something like that so they can't really move. This next move, Devious Swipe, I just came up with just a little bit of a combo. Calamitous can slight. He can attack with a 3-hit combo and start swiping. Something like that. Or maybe they can end it with like an electric blast from his hand. That could be something that could be added. And then the next move, Capture and Hold. So Calamitous can be able to he's going to be in this big robotic battle suit. Calamitous can grab onto any target within his sights, and he can throw them when prompted. So you can grab onto someone, like say you want to grab Jenny, Professor Calamitous versus Jenny. That'll be awesome to see one-on-one. The Calamibot taking on SJ9. You can be able to grab Jenny and just be able to toss her. And once a Calamibot or a Professor Calamitous grabs a hold of an enemy or any of these characters in the game, on the roster, he can just be able to just keep them in his hands, and then he can initiate his devious swipe combo, or maybe he can blast you with his flamethrower, or maybe he can just toss you. So it would be a nice little different throw than all the characters having the same little throw animation. He can be able to toss you a little bit further to have that extra arm with his capture and hold ability, or part of his moveset. The next one for his aerial, I put Met Cannonball, or maybe like a Metal Cannonball, but I just put Met Cannonball for his aerial attack. Calamitous can drop down in a ball form to crush and send enemies flying. So I thought this would be something cool. And then just as something that the gadget or the invention that Jimmy Neutron helped him finish, I put the ultimate disintegrator in the moveset. So Calamitous can summon his ultimate disintegrator on the field, his finally finished invention, thanks to Jimmy Neutron, and fire it up on a large group of enemies. So his disintegration ray is going to have a large radius of a ray. It's not going to just be able to hit SpongeBob alone. If SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy are the 3 other players on the field and they're all in range, the ultimate disintegrator is going to be able to blast them away and not send them flying. So there'll be something perfect that they can bring out. See how it made me think of April O'Neil's camera on the air, just like she says. Her channel says camera. Just the longer you stay in it, you're just gonna continuously take damage. But it can be some kind of summon that he can bring out for his ultimate disintegrator. It can work similar to how April can bring out her camera. So that could be something that he can bring out, and they can implement for the developers can implement for his disintegrator. His ultimate disintegrator can be perfect for this game. That's a nice little summon to be able to cause some ruckus, and it's going to be strong. So you definitely want to try to make sure you're in the air, because it's only going to be able to cross. You can't shoot it in the air. It's not going to shoot in the air. It'll just be able to fire across the screen with a giant beam, like a giant energy ray. You definitely want to make sure you want to be in the air when it's getting ready to go off, so you can stay out, so you can dodge it, because otherwise it'll definitely have a good chance of knocking you out. Last but not least, his recovery move, for my idea, the jet boosters. The jet boosters from his battle suit. He can use his jet boots and can be able to take off into the air and fly using his jet boots. And you can see this in the episode when Jimmy Neutron escaped and took advantage and finished his ultimate disintegrator, blast through the steel wall. He ended up trying to escape, and Professor Calamitous quickly jumped into Calamibot to try to stop him, and he took off into the air, and he's really fast, so he'll be able to fly into the air with his jet boosters. So you not only don't have to use it for recovery, you can use it just to get around and try to recuperate, just in case you're getting double teamed, for example, because he's going to be a pretty big character. I think he'll be way bigger than Shredder. If Professor Calamitous gets into the game, he'll be bigger than Shredder. He'll be the largest character because he's in this battle suit. So some people might try to double team him, try to get him out as one of the giant characters. So his jet booster is going to be really handy to keep away, to back off, try to get recovery, and then you want to try to bring out that disintegrator. Try to get everybody off of you just in case you're getting outnumbered. Things like that. And then you grab hold of whoever's in front of you and just start wailing on and destroying them. So those are my ideas for Calamitous. I think he can really be able to shine. This roster needs more villains, and I think Professor Calamitous, just like I was saying, I think he's underrated. I think he'll be a hilarious character with his voice lines trying to finish a sentence. And then just the special unique feature that I came up with for my own idea, being able to forget how to use some of these inventions, and some of these moves won't really be accessible because he's just going to struggle. So he'll go into this struggle phase, or as part of his Forgetful feature, for special feature, to make him unique and as a unique character, to get into the game and as a potential villain to join the likes of Zone and Shredder. They got a lot. And I think he can definitely be another rep for the Jimmy Neutron world. And they can get some other villains for Jimmy Neutron to be in the game and get represented. But Professor Calamitous, I think he'll be a great character. Let me know what you guys think. Just another ideal sort of Jimmy Neutron request. Calamitous is he's such a great pick, and it just sucks that he just didn't get too much representation in the show. But I think he can really shine in as a nice playable character for the villains to stack up the roster.